Hello everybody, Zeidoktor here, and this episode of the Typical Manga Review is My Hero Academia, Chapter 136, So Close! And our first panel here is actually a neat little bit of imagery here with Eri in the beak of the Plague Mask. Well, and just after Mario and Deku's made their declaration that they will save this kid. Meanwhile, the contrarian hero I have now begun to call Lock and Lobe, he's like, yeah, well, that's well and good if the kid lives, but it's likely deduced that the core of the plan is that the kid is the core of the plan that the couple wants under wraps. Then she escaped outside and topped it off and got spotted by heroes. You think he'd just compliantly leave her at headquarters? I wouldn't. Even if we invade, oh, she wasn't there isn't gonna cut it. Do we know where she is? Ryuko knows the point and asked Night Eye what he thinks, and he admits that is the problem. Exactly what and how far they have planned is completely obscure. If we can't strike them down in one fell swoop, that'll likely give them a chance to counterattack. So they separated the groups and organizations with direct contacts to the Hasaikai and their locations. And they created a list of as many possible. They can have ask the heroes to search their respective areas and narrow down the place that could be their current base. Which explains why they wanted the minor heroes, the ones that are that are more locally based and will probably know the area very well. Fatgum, however, does not like this. For all my former sidekick, your really causes so roundabout. We're sitting here like this, and the girl here may be crying her eyes out. But not I suspect that we cannot be All Might, and that is why we must analyze and amass our predictions so that the probability that we can save her is as close to possible to zero. Gran Torino agrees that they cannot be impatient. If they leap before they look and ruin their chances of capturing them properly, they'll be adding fuel to the fire. It'll be just like with Stain's Arrest, which just turned into PR for the League of Villains. Which might even have be their intent all along. And might even explain why the quirk-destroying weapons got round up in the hands of no-name thugs. Falcon was furious about this. Like, you're overthinking it. If you'll keep saying like that, you'll be dead in the water before you know it. But Eraserhead interrupts the tirade to ask a question. Like, I don't know exactly what kind of ability you have, Sir Night Eye, but if you could foresee the future, wouldn't it be okay for you if you looked at our futures? At this rate, we'll be lacking rationality. But Night Eye refuses. He explains the mechanics of his power a little bit. Like, basically, once he activates it, it requires a 24-hour interval to use again, so it's a once-a-day deal. And so he can only watch one person for a maximum of 1 hour per day. And it plays in his head frame by frame like a flashback or a film strip. Think of it like this. For 1 hour after I activate it, I am able to watch the entire film of the target person's life. However, the entire film's point of view is from somewhere immediately near them. Ultimately, I can only see the person's movements in a small amount of the surrounding environment. Of course, Eraserhead notes that that's more than enough for them to learn a few things. So what do you mean by I can't? And Night Eye's response is to wonder if, for example, if in that person's near future, death approaches. If only a gruesome death awaits, what would you do? And Deku and Gran Torino both seem to realize just why he's thinking that. And after this quirk has raised the success rate of the actions as we take as far as they'll go, it exists to make an already absolute sewer victory double sewer. Once not foresee recklessly. That is to say, when there are too many indefinite variables at play. But Lock and Lobe declares that that's information too, huh? We can take measures to prevent it from happening. This isn't like fortune telling. There's no evidence that what's foreseen can be avoided. But Lock and Lobe is determined. If you don't get it, it's fine. Do it on me. I'll avoid everything you foresee and show you. And I can't. He bows his head and he refuses. And everyone's kind of looking at about that. There's like even Mario's like, huh? Ryuko just kind of calls things up here, like, for the time being, let's just do it. The most important thing is the simple fact that there's a child out there in need of help. And now declares that their goal is the following: to secure the child's location and rescue in the swiftest manner possible and with the highest degree of precision possible. I thank you for your cooperation. And they started getting the assignments handed out, but then after the meeting, we see the students are together, and everyone knows now what happened to Deku and Mirio. Deku's classmates are sympathetic to him, and Amajiki's like, never seen Mirio this dejected. And when Eraserhead comes up and actually insists he be called Eraserhead outside of school instead of Sensei. And he came here intending to counsel them all to cancel the internships. When Kirsten wants to know, like, why now? It's like, you heard it for yourselves. There's a chance the League of Villains is going to be involved. That changes things. On the other hand, Midoriya, you still haven't restored my trust in you. Not since that little fight. Not sure if we're talking, not sure which fight we're talking about here. If it's either the Kamino Ward thing, his fight with Bakugo, or which one, but whatever. Either way, here's the point. He admits that he's convinced that if he tried to stop Deku, he'd just jump into the fray again. I'll be watching over you, so if we're going to do this, we're going to be doing it the proper way, Midoriya. You understand, problem child? And gives him like a little fist bump. And Namatiki tries to tell Mirai to raise his head. Well, Nejire-chan's like, hey, Togata, like, I totally know that if you hang your head and cry over it, you won't do anything. Didn't you know? Mirai agrees with that, too. And Nejire also gives Deku some assurance that there's no guarantee that Eri is looking back on the hand with which you failed to hold on to her in despair. Now face forward and let's keep moving. Deku declares, yes, sir. And even Kirishima's in, it's like, I'll follow you for the rest of my life. I'm not down for the rest of our lives. Oh, right, sorry. Kirishima, keep it down. Then we also have Night Eye and Gran Torino speaking. Like, so the reason you directed Midoriya to me was to reestablish friendly relations between myself and All Might. Well, I thought it could at least lead to one of the triggers needed to make it happen. Swear, as I get older, I start doing more and more that ain't nobody asked for. So, what do you think? I think they're very alike. Yes, he bears a resemblance to the madness inherent to All Might's being. The madness I could never understand. Then we see Eri in a cutely decorated bedroom lying in bed with unwrapped toys all around her. We see a mobster guy kind of walking. Hey, Eri, just want to see if you're here, that's all. You haven't touched any of the toys I went and got you. You could stand and lay your guard down a little, you know. While he's saying all this, he's thinking to himself, like, if you don't, it'll be my neck that gets disassembled next. He's remembering Overhaul telling me, you'll be her next caretaker. Stop her from thinking of escaping. Go give her some candy. I need to be someone Eri can trust. Makes it sound easy, but what do I know gets kids going? Can I just give her stuff from Pretty Girl or whatever it's freaking called? Yeah, that's it. Meanwhile, Eri thinking to herself that a certain feeling was totally different. Totally different. Up until now, nobody is telling me like him. Thinking about when Deku was trying to protect her. And she thinks to herself that his hand was so gentle. And you actually see like his Deku's scarred hand is the one that she's thinking of here. And he clenches it in the fist, declaring that this time he won't be letting go. Well, that's what the little blurb says, and that is where the chapter ends. So I think this is the end of our setup. I think next week we'll probably start getting some actual action going. Or at least set up for the immediate setup for the action, not just like all the exposition stuff. From there, I don't know what to expect on this. Like, I think it's obvious like Night Eye's had a few issues since his time with All Might. Like, the idea of seeing someone who might die in the near future seems to traumatize him just a little bit. Actually makes me wonder what'll happen if he ever had an issue like that when he was a kid, or growing up with that quirk, because dang. Because I think I've talked before about what kind of experiences these people might have had as little kids discovering their quirks for the first time. And I mean, like a kindergarten age little kid and seeing someone's future and seeing that they're going to die and just boom. I kind of like Lock and Lobe a bit better this chapter. Like, I know, like last week he was being like kind of an ass, like the contrarian one, to just saying everything that was going on. Kind of speaking out against everything going on, like speaking out against Mirio and Deku. But here it's like at least clear he's at least eager to save the kid as much as everyone else is. Like, he wants to make sure they do this right, whatever they do. So good on him. And Deku and Mirio are at least getting fired up again to actually take this fight to the bad guys again. The moment with the Eraserhead is probably the big highlight of the chapter, though. Where he's like telling Deku, he's like, look, I want you to stop. I think it'd be the better thing to do. But at this point, I know if I try to stop you, you just go out and be a dumbass anyway. So I'm going to be watching out for you, and you're going to do this the right way. Clear? And I'm trying to think, the whole thing about restoring his trust, was that because of the fight with Bakugo? Because of Kamino with All for One? Or am I thinking of the wrong thing entirely? Not entirely sure, but there you are. Let's see here. Just kind of going through things a little bit again. I confess I wasn't completely as into this week around as I've been in other chapters. Though I admit, right before I started recording, that's when I thought of the nickname Lock and Lobe, and that kind of got my energy back into this. So, yay! I do like with this whole meeting. There's like this nice little mix of passionate and rational going on here with everybody. Like Night Eye's kind of taking command, being the main. This is how we're gonna do things, guy. The guys like Fat Gum, like the man, they want to save this kid now, but I think when push comes up, they're both going to be necessary for this. Nice mix of philosophies as part of this, though. And I think we get what is probably our first real sign of weakness out of Night Eye. Wonder what will happen here. I wonder if now I'm wondering now if there's going to be like a sign that he can actually like stop. Deku will actually stop some form of the prediction, the foresight. Because that seems to be a thing here. Like, you can't avoid destiny, you can't screw destiny. So at least Deku is the one to do, especially in the case of him having the quote-unquote madness that All Might does. Which I think, come to think of it, kind of suggests that maybe Night Eye never truly realized just what made All Might what he was. Because he admires, like, good humor, strong sense of levity, like strong sense of togetherness. That's why he likes Mirio, and Mirio definitely has those qualities. And he definitely has like a lot of All Might qualities as well. Like you could easily see him as a good choice as All Might's successor in terms of personality. But Deku, well, doesn't have the personality, he does have the principles, the motivation. That's the thing to me. So I'm thinking next week we'll probably either get some, maybe like last little bit of setup, or maybe even get to the action properly. Not sure. Honestly, I expect next week to end with the action starting. That's kind of my expectation at that point. But for now, that'll be when we see it there. That'll just come when it comes. I do also have someone point out, like, on one of the message boards I follow, someone did point out the fact that Eri is thinking of Deku's messed up, scarred hand as a thing of protection. And in a weird way it is, because it shows how, because he got that protecting Kota, so it's like, it shows us how far he's willing to go in all this. So that made a pretty good thing there too. So I think, also, given the theme we're going with on this, I'm expecting this big fight will probably end up becoming Deku's debut as a hero. Like, we've had Kirishima get his, Uravity and Froppy get theirs. This will be Deku's. So I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and call the review. That again, that was My Hero Academia 136. So close. There is an Attack on Titan chapter making the translation round, but it has not been released officially yet. I'm recording this on Sunday, and it usually releases on Monday. So odds are, even if it comes out tomorrow or something, I'll probably have it up with next week's reviews more than this week's. That said, until that time comes around, see you later and bye-bye.